Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the LJ Travel Channel. This is Jay Ranke, and I'm standing in Sarles, North Dakota. That is S-A-R-L-E-S, North Dakota. And already, I've only been in town for 45 minutes, and I've had several adventures. I'll tell you about those in just a minute. The reason why I am in Sarles is because, and I'm standing on Main Street in Sarles, sorry that that's reversed, is because we have kind of a connection with this community. I'd never been here before, but my wife's sister Brenda married a gentleman in Texas named Bill Sarles, S-A-R-L-E-S, from Minnesota originally. And it turns out he's related to the people for whom this town is named. It turns out this town is named for the 9th governor of North Dakota, Elmore Yocum Sarles. And I'm going to be saying quite a bit about him in just a moment. But I'm sorry, it's really hard, people, to record without editing and not say and not have a podium in front of me to keep all my notes. So bear with me if I forget a few things. And I'll try not to say I've done that before. Anyway, here we are in Sarles, and I'm on the corner of Main Street, and there is the post office, and that is where I had part of my adventure today. And there's the American Legion behind there, and over there is Kyle's place. I had kind of an adventure there. UPS is making a delivery even as we speak. Behind there is the rural fire department, and that is a spot in Sarles where there used to be a bank. I'll say more about that in just a minute. There is a very moving memorial to veterans here. And the Legion Post is named after two men, one of whom was in Pearl Harbor and was injured when Pearl Harbor was attacked and died a week later. Another man was in Europe and was killed in Germany as the war progressed, World War II progressed. The names of hundreds of Civil War, World War I, World War II, Korean, Vietnam, and Middle East men are there. It's very, very moving. And then where my adventure in Sarles today began, behind me you can see a building, the school. The school's been abandoned for some years, and I did not see the sign where I parked in front of the school that said, "No trespassing." I didn't see it, so I found a door that was open and I went inside. And this is also part of my adventure. Did you see this dog? This dog followed me into the school. And as I'm talking to the folks in the post office, that dog's name is Emma. I kept saying, here boy, follow me out of the building, but it turned out it's a girl. But anyway, if you come to Sarles, you may meet Emma because she seems to love and know everybody, okay? So anyway, here we are at Sarles. I've explained why I'm here. Let me say a little bit about Sarles in terms of its history, and then I'm going to take you on a rather, hopefully not too lengthy exploration of Governor Sarles himself, for whom this town is named. Governor Sarles became governor in 1905. He won in 1904. He was elected in 1904 at the same time Teddy Roosevelt came into office. And Roosevelt swept Republicans into office across the United States. I discovered that in terms of talking about Sarles. Because he became the governor, that same year, the Great Northern Railway opened up a line from Munich, North Dakota, which as the crow flies is 20 miles southeast of here. It is a straight shot. If you look on a map of that railroad line, it is a straight shot, no variation whatsoever, 20 miles, and they called it the Sarles branch. Within 5 years, there were 320 some people here. The most people ever in Sarles was in the 1930 census. There were 383 in that census. Since then, the city's been on a decline. The last census had 16 people, estimated 15 by last year. So there's not a lot of people here. But I have met Deidre, the postmaster here, and while I'm in talking with her, there's a gentleman at the counter, and he said, we're talking for a little bit, and he goes, "We met before." And I go, "What? Where did we meet before?" I met him back when I was teaching in Warwick several years ago, and I went to church in Devil's Lake at the Missouri Synod congregation there. And he was with a group of people. We went out for lunch after church one day at the White House Cafe, really good cafe in Devil's Lake. And we were talking, and it turns out we have some history together. So that was kind of interesting. And they're the ones who told me the name of the dog, Emma. Kyle, by the way, if you ever come into Sarles, you want to go to Kyle's place. Nice place, nice environment when you go inside there. That was built in 1980. His grandfather built the place. Then his father ran it, and now he runs it. Really a great guy, really a nice guy to talk with. So I'm kind of meandering all over the place here, but let me tell you a little bit about my time in the school. And it was kind of sad. People, you understand that. Old school buildings, it's just hard to see them fall into disrepair. I was surprised how much ceiling, how much brick had fallen and become debris on the floor of the school. I walked all the way upstairs, all the way down into the basement. It's sad to see that part of what was once part of a really part of this community now in disrepair. But as that's how it goes in these small towns, unfortunately. We can be thankful for the community that was here, but it is sad. There's a death there when that kind of community is no longer there. Now, Sarles, again, I said it was organized in 1905. What was interesting is, as you look at some of the histories I've discovered, that where the rural fire department is, there a number of small towns had the similar design. You came in up Main Street, and the Main Street became a circle around a particular building, and then it proceeded past that circle outside the other side. There are 3 small towns in North Dakota that I know of: Sarles, Antler, and also Max Bass. That in that center circle there was a bank built, and all 3 banks were the exact same design. A very beautiful historic structure. If you go to Max Bass today, they have reconstructed that one. Somebody has rebuilt that bank, and it's beautiful. Sarles had one of those. It's been gone for years now, but it had it in the center island on Main Street, which is an interesting way to build a town, but it wasn't the only one. But some contractor evidently got all these banks, and they had the same plan for all of them, and they were just beautiful buildings. The railroad, let's see what else. I'm going to walk over to my notes here, over by and it's hard to record when I don't have a table to put all my notes in front of me. I think what I'm going to just do is start talking about Sarles. And the reason why I have gone down so many rabbit holes exploring Governor Sarles, for whom the city is named, because of a particular claim that has been made about him. If you look at the North Dakota Heritage Society, the State Heritage Society, and other places too, it makes an amazing claim about Elmore Sarles. It says that he went to school in Prescott, Wisconsin, grew up in Wisconsin, and that 5 members of his graduating class all went on to become governors in different states. I thought, what? How can that possibly be? How can there be 5 governors from one graduating class in a small town in Wisconsin? So I began researching that. What I discovered, and folks, I have been on the phone or in email communication with the Wisconsin State Heritage Society, their the state's historical entity there, North Dakota's Historical Society. I've been on the phone or in email contact with the State Library in North Dakota, with the University of Wisconsin River Falls, with the history museum in Pierce County, Wisconsin, and had quite a bit of email communication. I've of course tried to call Prescott, Wisconsin, the high school, and said, can you tell me about this claim for 5 people at your high school that became governors? She said, I've never heard of it. It took me a few days to talk to the person who had more records. They only had records going back to 1920. So that opened up, I had to keep digging and digging different historical societies and whatever, and had to figure out ways to get some online research done. What I discovered, by way of what I would consider to be the most authoritative sources, one was a 3-volume source about governors in North Dakota that was published in 1979, but you can read it online. Another published by the editor of the Bismarck Tribune about North Dakota history. In both of those sources, it said nothing about Prescott, except that he worked in Prescott. Governor Sarles did, before he was governor, of course. But they said he went to school in Sparta, Wisconsin. So I began exploring Sparta, Wisconsin. Well, that school's closed over Christmas break. I can't talk to anybody there. But that led me to exploring any governor I could any governor I could find that was born and at about his birth year, 1859, to see if any governors in any other state had come from that part of Wisconsin. I've literally explored lists of governors in every single state in the United States. And every governor, any governor that was born in and around 1959, all the way down to, or 1859, 1854, all the way up to 1864, I have clicked on those guys' names. I have checked every governor in all 50 states. I'm not lying. And I've come up with some interesting stories, by the way, including the fact that in my home state, Idaho, one of our governors was assassinated 5 years after he got out of office. The miners' union put out a hit on him, and they killed him with a bomb at his own house. Another interesting story is the governor of Wyoming, who had been a doctor when a guy who'd killed two law enforcement agency officers, he'd killed them, and that guy was eventually lynched. That doctor had a medical case and shoes made out of that man's skin. No joke. And that governor in Wyoming, when that doctor became the governor, he was wearing those shoes at his inauguration. That blows me away. Okay? There's those kind of stories you discover when you start looking at all the governors in all the 50 states. Well, what I discovered is that there was a governor. Oh, also the fact that Governor Yocum attended Galesville University in Galesville, Wisconsin. In all of my explorations, I discovered that there was a governor who graduated from Galesville or attended about the same time as Sarles, and he went on eventually to become governor of California. There was also a student who graduated at Sparta, Wisconsin, high school. He went on eventually to become governor of South Dakota. So it is very possible that our governor, Elmore Sarles, went to high school with one man who became a governor in South Dakota and college with another man who went on to become governor of California. But I cannot verify the statement that 5 students at Prescott, and that's the other thing I discovered. One of the historians in Wisconsin finally got back to me and he said, you know what, there was no high school in Prescott at that time. So he couldn't have graduated from high school in Prescott. So a number of the sources that talk about him going to school in Prescott are only partially correct. He might have gone to school there part of the time, but he could not have graduated from there because there was no high school. And I think he graduated from high school because he went on to the university. So I'm not sure how all that hangs together. But I'll tell you what, I have been digging under every rock I can find to try and find verification. I've looked at online issues of his obituary in the Bismarck Tribune, in the Hillsborough Banner, where Sarles was actually, when he left Wisconsin, he came to North Dakota, and he opened a bank in Hillsborough, North Dakota at age 22. This guy was a go-getter. And he also, his brother did that, and they opened up lumber yards. He was a very, very well-respected businessman in the eastern part of the state. And that's what finally got him into politics. He didn't really pursue political office, but people saw him as a very responsible, trustworthy man, and they finally elected him. Another thing that's come out of this exploration of Sarles is a little bit about North Dakota history, political history. And that is the fact that he was elected, like I said earlier, on the shirt tails of Teddy Roosevelt. And though he was well liked, and the Republicans were already pretty strong in North Dakota at that time. But there were other things happening in North Dakota that he only served for 2 years and was not reelected. Among the things that worked against his reelection was the fact that there was a political machine in North Dakota run by Andrew Mackenzie, for whom the largest county in North Dakota is named Mackenzie County, south of Williston. Watford City is its county seat. Currently, it was not originally. But he was not from Mackenzie County, but his name was Mackenzie. He ran the political machine in North Dakota, and people began to realize that and resent it. And because they saw Sarles, they didn't really dislike Sarles, but he was kind of part of the machine that brought him into power. They began to turn against Mackenzie. Also, Sarles that Andrew Mackenzie had said something negative about Swedes in North Dakota. And because he kind of turned against the Swedes or said something that was not very helpful, the Norwegian population And you don't want to make Norwegians unhappy in North Dakota because they are a block, people. Trust me. Norwegians are a block in North Dakota. They were not so happy with Mackenzie, and because they wanted to get rid of his machine, they voted against Sarles. Some of them did anyway. But the real big thing was the farmers. The farmers began to resist, or really felt like they were taken advantage of by the railroads and by the elevators, grain elevators. And they wanted somebody who was not part of the political machine. And so they organized. And so Sarles did not stay there. One other thing that Sarles did, and I kind of get a kick out of this, and this is something else I learned about North Dakota, that when North Dakota was organized in 1889, that they began in February getting the Constitution Convention going. It began on July 4th, 1889, prepared a constitution, which was ratified by the voters on October 1st, 1889. But part of the discussion during that convention was, are we going to be a dry state or not? What about prohibition? Because that had become a real movement. What the people who organized the Constitution decided is, let's have 2 votes. On the same day, we're going to vote for the Constitution, and we're also going to vote on whether or not to be a dry state, prohibition. The Constitution passed 3-1. Huge majority passed for that, passed the Constitution. But whether or not to be a dry state, barely passed. But as a result, it did pass, and so North Dakota became the first state to come into the United States as a dry state. There were other dry states that had adopted prohibition since their statehood, but North Dakota was the first to come in as a dry state. Now back to Sarles. One of the other things that worked against him when it came time to be reelected was the fact that somebody saw him in public drinking beer. Yes, the governor of North Dakota, during a time of prohibition, was drinking beer. That turned off a certain population. I kind of like that fact. I'm the one, remember, who if you get to rugby, go to Lee's Bar, $6 pitchers, can't beat that with a stick. Okay, so, but Governor Sarles had a beer, and that did not make people happy. So, and he only served for 2 years. I think it is safe to say that Governor Sarles did not graduate with 4 other people who all became governors. He might have gone to school with 2 other eventual governors, but that's as much as I can verify. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I know when I get done with this when I get done with this video, I'll remember things that I forgot to say. But I've already talked for 17 minutes, so it's probably time to hang this up. When you have a chance, I hope you come to visit Sarles, North Dakota. Maybe you'll get a chance to see Emma, who lives right across the street from the school, I think. That's where she came and visited me, the dog, okay? Say hi to Deidre at the post office. You might even bump into Dennis. Dennis is the guy, actually, he's from Devil's Lake. He picks up the mail here and carries it back to the Devil's Lake post office. He's not a delivery man. And then stop in at Kyle's. Kyle's has a grill. It's not open every day of the week. Well, it's closed on Sundays, but he's got a kitchen. Looks like a nice place. And come back and visit the memorial here, and just treasure the people who make our freedom possible, and just enjoy what was once a thriving community, Sarles, North Dakota. Thank you for this time. Take care. Goodbye, and God bless.